It's Game Music Monday! It's about game music on Mondays on YouTube. Martial art is made up of two wonderful musicians known as JMR and Strifig, who blew my mind when they released their debut self-titled album. And then there's Cory Johnson, who has multiple times blown my mind with some of his incredible video game tribute albums. But now, they all combine forces over this 4-track EP, which will most assuredly blow my mind. Cory Johnson has already written some of my favorite Zelda rearrangements. And then, as mentioned, Martial Art were incredible in their debut original album. So, I've got to go with the chip rock waves of Martial Art and Cory Johnson in this remix of classic Legend of Zelda theme, Fairy Fountain. I haven't played Pokemon in like over a year, but it feels like I just finished playing yesterday. I mean, once you set out on that quest to be a Pokemon champion, it just runs in your blood forever. I mean, I could really go for just catching and hatching some eggs right now. Riding my bike in circles, hatching eggs. Quote, Harmony of a Champion is a tribute to over 20 years of Pokemon Red and Green and a story-driven experience that tells the story of a boy named Red and his journey from his hometown of Pallet to becoming the Pokemon champion. End quote. Lots of familiar and unfamiliar artists for me as I look at the track list for this compilation. Rosin makes another strong showing. I know Rosin. There are some surprisingly daunting moments in this album, and I'm not just talking about the amount of tracks. Spencer Bambrick, who you may know from an earlier episode of this show, as the guy who made a soundtrack from an earlier episode. The haunting collection of sounds in the track Sanctuary, parts 1 through 4 by Spencer Bambrick start off very jauntily, but once you enter Pallet Town, and you see the somber mood of Pallet Town, and you realize things are getting kind of dark, and things are getting dark real quick. Things are really taking a bad turn. What's that? I have to go to the top of a cemetery? Can we make scary game music like its own genre, separate from standard game music? Because scary music from video games definitely deserves its own category. You know the kind of music, stuff like the Lavender Town remix I just played for you, anything by Akira Yamaoka. Many of the themes represented in this album I'm about to talk about right now. Pinhead Larry's latest, Memory Palace 2, just came out, and it's filled to the brim with haunting tracks. And any tracks that weren't originally very haunting in video game form are made much more haunting by Larry anyway. So that's a lot of very scary tracks that all belong under the scary game music tag. There's a lot of Zelda on this album and a few Pokemon tracks to go with it. I'm very glad to see this Ekritik City remix on the album, because that track also means it's secretly a Pokemon Pinball remix. Pokemon Pinball could use some more remixes. But you should head over to his Bandcamp page to check that out, because what I'm going to play for you today is the slow and stress-inducing remix of Legend of Zelda's Stone Tower Temple theme. I'm always glad to share an artist who has been on one of my old-timey game music compilations back when I helped coordinate those things. Back in my day, Chris Porter contributed to a couple of those albums. And Chris Porter is still doing big things, specifically the soundtrack to the 2017 game YOMOTSU, an indie game which was created in under 1 month. I'm not sure which month, because that would be a couple days difference. Anyway, I'm gonna share with you Mimi's Bitwood. It's one of 11 diverse themes that Chris Porter composed in that 1 month deadline. And I like this theme a lot because of the bass. The game, as well as the soundtrack to Celeste, have already made a good run through most gamers' consoles at this point, and I don't really have anything profound to add to all of the discussion for this great game, but I still need to mention that this is an incredible soundtrack, and I need to mention that to build up a little street cred in this niche sphere of game music YouTube channels. So, make sure you play Celeste. Check out the Celeste soundtrack by Lena Raine. Check out the B-side to that album by all of Lena Raine's friends. And if that argument doesn't convince you, because it wasn't really an argument, reconsider doing those things while you listen to a bit of the soothing sounds of the track Checking In from the Celeste original soundtrack. I've been your host, Geno Boost. If you want me to listen to your video game music album and then share a brief description of that album on this show, then check out the contact links in the video description. If you are a sentient being, please follow me on Twitter. If you like sharing your country's native currency with others, please subscribe on Patreon. Oh, and gently caress that subscribe button. It does wonders for my self-esteem.